Join two sisters who explore the couples that fandoms adore. We write their stories in the night in the glow of computer light. Eyes connect, clothing flies. In our head, canon love never dies. Stencils that leave us pining. In deep forums we are mining. For this journey, better strap in, because we all know that shit happens.
Welcome to the podcast that explores the couples fans can't stop dreaming about from the pop culture you love. Because when it comes to your favorite ragtag party of teen heroes, ship happens.
We're your hosts. I'm Emily.
And I'm Rachel. She likes nerd culture.
And she likes making podcasts. So we thought we'd join forces to make a podcast about popular online ships.
And this one's really popular.
It's like one of the most, the biggest.
And before we jump in for my ship of the week, I actually have somebody today, and it's from another very popular media. It's a TV show, and I want to talk about Severance. So the couple that I'm really rooting for, it's hard because one body, two people. So you got to be specific. So I'm really rooting for Innie Mark and Innie Helly to get together. They love each other. They're making their stand against the man. But they are two people who only exist within the severed floor. Do you know the premise of Severance?
Yeah, you have. I hear a lot about Severance, and I think you've explained it to me. You forget. When you're in work, you don't remember your outside life. And then when you're outside, you don't remember your work life.
Yes.
Which is really, really sad for the in-work people. Because my whole life being work is oh.
That's what the show starts off being kind of cool about that. And then it just turns into, it just kind of goes off the rails. So it starts off as being two pieces of one person, which, I mean, I don't think anybody would really want to be severed because who would volunteer to have no control over what your body says or does? For 9 hours a day. That's nuts. Even people who are very dependent on alcohol probably aren't a fan of blacking out and hearing about what their innie did, the next morning. But anyways, it creates the weird conundrum of, are these two people separate people? Are they components of somebody? I don't need to get all into it, but they're two people who met in the severed floor where they're their own persona who's stuck in the office, and the odds are stacked against them because the one guy, they just rescued his wife, Mark's wife just got rescued, and Helly R's Audi is a raging bitch and kind of the villain of the whole show. Spoiler alert.
Ooh.
So it's really spicy. And we also can't really trust if she is who she says she is, which, I mean, but how different could they be, right? Just because you sever.
Right, I don't know. They're having totally different lives and experiences. How much are you shaped by your day-to-day?
Yeah, and these people are having romantic
who you're around
and sexual relationships on a severed floor, and they've technically only been alive for 120 hours. It's just odd.
Yeah, I don't know. Because if you really don't remember anything outside of your workplace,
it's really spotty on what they do and don't remember because they talk about wanting to know what the sky looks like, but then when they were on this wilderness retreat, they identified a seal really easily. And I was like, wait a minute. What information is retained and what isn't?
Yeah, that's whenever it's convenient. That's like any kind of amnesia plot line. It's where it's a line. You don't remember your past, but you know how to speak English and walk and stuff. You remember some stuff.
Well, actually, that's a really good point because we talk about that on my other podcast, Impolite Society, about where memory is stored because we did an episode on traumatic brain injuries. So, your base brain can do a lot of the motor skills, and then your frontal cortex is more of your executive functioning and working memory. So if you have that part's cut out, you're not going to write a novel or even be able to hold a conversation, but you can get pretty far just based on, that back memory. One guy, they took out his amygdala. He lost all of his short-term memory, but they could still teach him how to draw. He still learned a skill, even though every day was a brand new day for him. But still, by teaching him the same thing over and over again, he got better at it. Mm-hmm. So that's
stored somewhere.
Yeah, so I actually know a little bit about that now just based on the other show that I do. But anyways, that's my ship of the week. I do think that there may be, I don't know if they're going to end up together because I don't know if severed people are going to be, how do you end that story, right? Because there's only one body.
Right. They'd have to like, yeah, wipe out a whole other person, basically. Or do you bring them together, but then you have multiple relationships? I don't know.
Yeah, that's what they're trying to do right now is bring the both people together in one person, but that doesn't seem quite right either.
Is that killing a person? Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think they're going to end up together. It seems too complicated, but they found love a helpless place. So good for them.
The workplace.
Yes. They've only been alive for 300 hours and they've already figured out sex. Again, don't know what the sky looks like, but that knowledge they've retained.
Yeah, life finds a way.
Life finds a way. And what if that's really just what's going on? I think that's kind of the theme of Stranger Things is that the universe of the monsters is shot, so they're trying to take over ours. They're just trying to survive. And that's right. We are talking about Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Do you remember that show? When it used to have new seasons?
One more.
We're ahead of the curve on this one.
Yeah. It's coming out, I think, eventually.
Probably around Halloween this year, I believe.
Oh, okay.
So if you're finding this in preparation of that, hey.
It won't be too bad. It'll be like 6 months out.
I know. Yeah. You'll be able to place when we recorded this because it's when Severance was relevant.
Yeah. Everyone was talking about it.
Correct.
But anyway, yeah. Stranger Things was the Severance of its time.
It sure was.
For 1 to 2 seasons ago.
We're talking about two crazy kids from the show, specifically. Actually, I'd say two of the bigger fan favorites.
We're talking Steve and Eddie. So I think Steve's probably fan favorite of the whole series. Eddie, fan favorite of most recent season.
Which is what, season 4?
4, yes.
Okay.
So they're pretty big. They seem to be top of the scoreboards on the fandom shipping.
Yeah, they're still up there.
Yeah.
Considering I think that the season 4 came out in 2022 or 2021.
All the posts I was looking at was 2 years old.
Yeah, minimum.
So we're doing Steddie. So what are we thinking ship name?
We have Steve and Eddie, so we don't have a ton of choices.
No. I think it's solid. It's easy. The first time I saw it, I was like, oh, that's the ship from Our Flag Means Death, which is Ed and Steed.
Oh, yeah.
It's very close.
I think it applies better to Ed and Steed, you know? But this one should be Stevie. Stevie? Well, I guess if you write...
Stevie.
I like Stevie. Because it sounds a little bit more like Eddie. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's about... You get Steddie, you get Stevie. That's it. That's really the only choices.
Yeah. Eid. I don't know. Yeah.
Eid. No, that's...
Unless, I don't know, you could get creative. So there's a ship with Eddie and then the cheerleader, and that is called like Hell Cheer because of the Hellfire Club, and then she's a cheerleader. So it's like, why don't we get more creative with like...
Oh, yeah, because they do. Harrington is his last name, and the other one is Munson. So it could be Munnington or Harrison. I kind of like Harrison, but that's because I'm just drawn to regular names. Because I know Steve's other ship is last name based. So, but I think Steddie's fine for this purposes tonight.
Who doesn't know what Stranger Things is about? I feel like it's been in the zeitgeist enough. But anyway, TV show. It's about a group of kids, maybe some teens. They're like older siblings. So some like younger kids, they're older siblings. They're growing up in the 80s in Indiana, and they kind of stumble upon another dimension full of monsters. Every once in a while, a monster escapes. They got to fight him, put him back. With the help of this mysterious girl with extra special powers. And that's also part of it.
Right.
Yep,
somehow it's
magical.
all connected. She's tapping into the powers of the other world to be able to move things with her mind because it's like very heavy on the 80s nostalgia, right? That's kind of like the font that it's written in. And so, of course, she's part of some MK Ultra coded secret experiment.
Montauk. Yeah. Something Project Montauk was like a real thing. As inspired by... and so it leans extra. Like, it was just the kids. They always had, like, a D&D tie-in with it. But it's gotten bigger and bigger. So now, like, the Reds, the Russians.
The fact that they were just brought in the Russians as the big bad. I was just like, what is happening?
I was watching the, like, recaps of the season. So I watched first. I think I watched up to the third season, and then by the time the fourth season came out, Netflix was dead to me. So I did not watch the fourth one.
Emily's feeding with Netflix, which I'm about to too, because I am on the ad plan or whatever, and you can't watch everything on it anymore. So this morning, Roman was trying to watch Boss Baby 2 or whatever, and he kept playing the trailer, being like, "Mama, play that, play that." I was like, "I can't. Netflix hates
I'm
us."
giving them money and I'm watching ads. And I can't even get to everything. Yeah, see, I just can't.
No,
Netflix anymore. But anyway, I was watching the recap of season 4, and I liked all the stuff with the kids actually still in Indiana. I forgot what that town's called.
Hawkins.
But anyway. Hawkins, yeah, actually, like run the kids, Steve and Nancy and all them, all that stuff was cute. And every once in a while, they'd be like, "Meanwhile, in Russia," because now they're in a gulag or something. It's like, what is happening?
Yeah, it really.
The first season was very good.
Yeah, the first season was incredible. I heard about it at work. And Ish was back in the days when my husband used to travel on the weekends. He left early on a Saturday. I was like, "Oh, I'll just put on an episode of this show just to see what it's about." I watched the whole thing. 8 hours. Like, it was my job. I watched season 1 of Stranger Things. It was phenomenal. That first season is magic. The way they have it and everything. Chef's kiss. And when I heard there was a season 2, I was like praying that it would be an anthology like series where every season was a different mystery, just like maybe using the same actors because everybody loved the actors, loved the kids. But no, they decided to really drag out this narrative instead.
Yep.
And they really beat it to death. They're like, "You remember the 80s? Do you remember the Cold War? Do you remember malls?"
Yeah, it's like every season is like a thing, like an 80s thing. I feel like the first season was like Dungeons and Dragons, and then I don't remember the second season very well.
No.
Third season was the mall. Yeah, like remember malls, and then this one I think is very like Satanic Panic.
Right,
like,
yes.
themed.
Remember
Yeah.
that? So what is the next one going to be? Reaganomics, probably, just given the culture, right? The zeitgeist. It'll be like, remember the last time a TV star was a president?
Yeah.
A Holly weirdo made it to the Oval Office. Remember?
Throwback. But yeah, so there's all this plot. But it's also very like an 80s nostalgia shit. Or basically it's feeding you 80s nostalgia. I think that's a lot of the appeal.
That was a
lot of the selling point of it anyway.
Right.
There's a lot of other appeals. The kids and the characters are good, but
and the first season, I will say I will die on the hill. It was amazing. It was really good TV. It sucked you in. Mm-hmm. And then
the lights, I still those like the lights with the letters like flashing, and when it spelled the run, I remember just being like, "Oh shit!"
I was none of the other seasons were as scary.
Tension is so good.
It was scary, and the other ones are like anxious, like, "Oh, they're fighting a bad guy," like I'm scared, but it wasn't the scary that wasn't there. But anyways, now that we ragged on it. It's obviously we'll watch the 5th season when it comes out because I gotta know what happens. I have theories and I gotta know if those theories are real.
Gotta finish it.
Well, it'll probably won't be able to watch it. It won't be included on the ad version.
No, they'll make you pay extra money for it. So when I googled, this is back to what we were talking about earlier. I was like, "What is the ship name for Our Flag Means Death?" For those two characters.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I typed in ship name flag means death, and it was like the Revenge. Like the actual boat. I was like, "Oh yeah,
it's still
there's boats in this one."
The boats still come up. Yeah.
I was like, okay, I could have worded that better. I could have thought of that one. But anyway, our other experience with Stranger Things is a family outing that we had at a Stranger Things escape room.
Honestly, that escape room was pretty cool, right?
Yeah, there was secret rooms. Gotta have a secret room.
It was like several. We went to the Upside Down, right? It was like you start in an 80s themed room and then you do something, you unlock something, and then we were in the Upside Down.
I think, was that the one we like barely made it? There was one we were like really close to the time limit. It was a fun time. I remember it, so.
I didn't until you mentioned it. But no, that one was fun.
I associate it. Yeah, Stranger Things in that one escape room.
That's enough about the show in general. Let's talk about Steddie. Let's get into it. So Steve, I feel like he's the center of this whole thing. He was an emergent fan favorite from the first season, and potentially maybe the best character in the show. I mean, he's up there.
I think so, actually.
He's very likable.
He's my favorite. He goes through a whole journey. He kind of starts off kind of shitty, but not irredeemably shitty. But then he like grows and he like goes to apologize. And then he gets put in this position of like protector for these children that he's like constantly putting himself in front of monsters for these kids. He's not related to like, he's just got to save these kids. Becomes a father figure, big brother to Dustin, who I think also really shines in this. And yeah, he's just funny. Like, he's great.
Yeah, he kind of does a 180, right, where he ditches the popular boy 80s movie villain like stereotype, and he becomes a real person. Because he just kind of gets thrown into the situation where there's kids and there's monsters, and him and that bat are like going and protecting children. And I think that, is going to inherently turn people onto you and be like, yeah, okay. Definitely makes the ladies swoon. And then add in the fact that the actor is just dripping with charisma. It was a recipe for success.
Right. He saved his character's life. He was going to die in the first season until they cast the actor, Joe Keery, and he's just too likable, too charming. So they're like, we got to change it.
He did a
made
real
the character
Elsa.
A whole person. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So they had to keep him around.
Like, you've heard that story, right? Where Elsa was supposed to be the villain, and then they wrote her the Let It Go song, and they're like, just kidding.
It's too powerful. Yeah. It's too uplifting.
And that's really what he did. So good for him.
Yeah.
And officially becomes part of the party, right? He goes from just being a shitty boyfriend, right? To, like, being one of the main characters.
Oh, yeah. The goddamn babysitter. he always gets stuck with the kids because he's so good with them, and he does pick up another equally aged friend, Robin, in the third season, and then that's great. They have a great relationship when he admits to maybe having feelings for her, or at least like maybe a little crush. He maybe wanted to see how he's like, we could date, we can see where this goes. He's pretty immediately shut down because she is a lesbian and not into men, and he rolls with that really well for like the 80s.
Yeah,
they're just besties.
He's not fragile in his masculinity.
No, yeah.
I mean, obviously, I think there's a fair amount of confidence that comes with beating monsters to death with bats. But again, he's somebody who was like the prom king stereotype. He's just suddenly very open to having relationships and like friendships with the people who are outside of that, on the lower rungs of that social hierarchy. Which kind of leads us into the other half of this ship tonight, which is Eddie, who is definitely on the lower end of that ladder.
Yeah. So Eddie's the new character in season 4. So I guess the younger boys have moved. They're freshmen in high school, and so they've joined the high school D&D club. The Hellfire Club, and Eddie is the DM, the dungeon master for their D&D game. It seems like he's failed his senior year a few times. He's been held back. So he's kind of like this, a bunch of different like stereotypes, especially in the 80s, that people would have been like, ooh, what's up with him? So, right, he's been held back. He likes D&D. He sells drugs. He's like from the,
he lives in a trailer?
The wrong side of the tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So kind of, like I said, this season I felt like is kind of satanic panic themed, and he kind of fits that.
Well, because he gets vilified,
yeah.
right? Yeah, they think that he is out there killing people probably for rituals or whatever. He feels that weight that society puts on him, and he kind of bucks it. He plays the role, right? He's like, yeah, I'm the weird, scary guy. Blah.
Yeah.
With the little devil horns
I'm the
and
weirdo,
stuff.
but I'm not a conformist like all you sheeple.
Right, because that's the only way you can justify yourself is to put other people down, right?
But it helps out the kids, and apparently they're having a rough time in high school as like kind of goofy freshmen, and it's kind of empowering for them. Be like, no, you're the weird ones.
And inside, he's got a heart of gold, right? And he uses that to kind of relate to a cheerleader who's going through a tough time. That would be Chrissy of the very popular TikTok sound. Chrissy, wake up. I don't like this. Have you heard that one? Did it make its way to Instagram Reels?
I'll send it
to you.
I don't think so.
Chrissy, wake up. I'll send it to you. I'll cut out the second half of me singing that. But it was a very popular sound for a while there. And then she ends up dying very brutally, and I almost rage quit the show at that point because I'm like, that's the thing with this Stranger Things bullshit is they always got to kill a woman or a young girl at the beginning to get you to care about blah, blah, blah. I literally walked out of it. My husband had to hear about it a lot. I literally almost quit because I felt so bad for her. And I also shipped those two, which we'll talk a little bit more about later. I'm not progressive enough. It's okay.
But so how do these two, Eddie and Steve, how do they cross paths? So yeah, the cheerleader dies in Eddie's vicinity. He's there, I guess. And then he books it. So then her death is blamed on him because he's kind of a scapegoat for it because everyone's like, look at this weirdo.
And that ties into the satanic panic that you mentioned.
Yeah, he's probably doing rituals or whatever. So Dustin, like I said, looks up to him. He's like kind of his new older friend. So he gets the team involved and they go find him. Also, Max starts, I guess, floating and stuff. So they got to figure out what's going on with Max as well.
Mm-hmm. This was very culturally significant.
Yeah, there was a lot of,
at least on
memes
TikTok,
came out of it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, Dustin gets his other older friend, Steve, to help him out. They have to work together to stop the monsters. Now Eddie's involved, so they all fight monsters together. So what are the specific events that people are citing? Because they really don't spend a lot of time together.
Right. Oh, and before we get into that, I will say, so Steve is kind of the star of the show, right? He's like the unintended star of the show. Then Eddie comes in, and he's like the person that everybody relates to, right? Like all of us weirdos are like, we are the Eddie of our, high school or whatever, even though we probably weren't because we weren't that cool. But he's like the everyman. So he's also, again, charming and relatable. So then everybody kind of latched onto him. So as we get into this next section where we talk about their on-screen interactions, things are a little bare. So we got to remember what's going on in the fans' heads is almost more important than the actual. Well, in some cases, is more important because there's as we find out.
Well, yeah. And then this is one plot line, and then there's also the Russia plot line, and then there's the plot line with 11, whatever she's got going on, and her tragic backstory. It's just a lot is happening, so they don't get to spend a whole lot of time on these specific characters. Which I think is a bummer because I think it's the best part of the show.
I remember that as well. I didn't care about Papa in the basement. I didn't care about that old crusty old haunted house. I definitely did not give a fuck about Russia. I will say that every time they put to those two, I'm like, get me out of here. I want
such a bummer because they're great in the first season.
Yeah.
It's not even I did used to care about them, but now they're in Russia. What is happening?
But the kids, because they're still fighting the monsters in their hometown, it keeps that air of believability. It hasn't crossed the line yet that they got a small private plane and flew to Russia. I just don't believe that.
But this is kind of back to the first season. They're just fighting monsters in their hometown.
Which is where the magic happened.
Yes, yeah.
Kind of like a Goonies, but with alternate dimensions and whatnot. Who doesn't like that? Yeah. The adults don't know what's going on. The kids have to save the day.
Mm-hmm. Classic.
It's a classic for a reason.
Good for a reason. So yeah, they did have a lot of
but they had to have met at least once, right?
What the fans seem to really be kind of building it on. The meet cute, which we'll get to, but also there was a conversation in the Upside Down where Eddie tells Steve that he's kind of jealous of his relationship with Dustin because they're both his kind of like a love triangle, but of a big brother.
Yeah.
Where they're kind of competing to be the big brother for Dustin. In that, Dustin's really hyped Steve up, and Eddie's I can't believe someone is as popular as you are, as well liked, and also be a good guy. He's not possible.
Right, because it kind of challenges his worldview as that he constructed of I'm the outsider, I'm the only good one, everybody else is a phony. You're a phony.
Yeah. Can't be conventionally, popular, good at sports, and
a good person.
A shithead.
Yeah. And that's also interesting too, because this is I can see where it might get people's minds turning because it is a vulnerable moment. And as we learn through this journey, vulnerability is kind of a big piece of what makes people be yes, They want to do sex to each other.
Yes. And then I think this line, there's like one line that really I think carries the whole thing, and that is when Eddie is hot wiring a car. Kind of getting to his tragic backstory of how his dad taught him the hot wire car, and like instead of playing ball with him and stuff, and he's living up to his name. It's like kind of sad.
Yeah.
But when Robin is like, I don't really trust Eddie to drive this. It was not a car. It's like a camper or a trailer. He's like, well, no, Steve's going to drive. You can handle it, big boy, or something. And I kind of feel like it is kind of flirty.
Smile. Yeah.
Yeah. He like leans into him. It's kind of like, oh, I mean, I feel like Eddie is flirting with him. But yeah, that's pretty much it though. That's kind of the end of it. I think at the end, when they walk off to go their separate ways at the end of the season, what Eddie says, like, make him pay for it to Steve or something. He's going to go fight the big bad guy. And I think it could be argued that Eddie's kind of inspired by Steve's heroicness there at the end.
Yeah.
Because he kind of pulls a Steve move by
Sacrificing
himself for the kids.
And he does play a badass guitar solo beforehand. Which that also adds to the swoon factor for us at home. But unfortunately,
Yep.
Steve didn't get to see it. He was all fighting back now.
Yep. Which also, adds to the swoon factor for him.
Right. What could have been? What could have been?
Right. Because at the end of that guitar solo, Eddie does bite it.
He is the sacrificial character of the season, right? Like
There's always one. And I will never forget Sean Astin.
You can't do that to Samwise Gamgee. Not in this house.
Well, it's just like now it's becoming a thing where they introduce a character, make you like him, and then kill him off because they can't kill off any of the main characters. Like you can't kill a kid, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like Steve's the one that's the most at risk because they were gonna kill him, and he's kind of on his own. Like everybody else's family. He's not one of the kids. So like he's kind of the most at risk, which actually adds more stakes to when he does do all his like heroic things than the other characters. But no, I haven't killed him off yet. So someone else had to go, and they kind of had Eddie as like a stand-in.
Yes. Yeah, he was the fresh meat. We were all afraid they were going to do that to the redheaded girl this year, or when she first showed up. I was waiting for her to die, but she made it. Because I know, who was it in season 1? Somebody died, right? It's
Barb!
Well, I met somebody who made it through the first couple episodes, and then they tried to do it to Hopper. Like he bit the big one, but just kidding, he's in Russia somehow. But yeah,
I don't wait. Season 2 was Sean Astin. Season 3, Billy kind of. I think he kind of sucked, but then he had like a little bit of a heel turn at the end. We'll talk about Billy probably a bit more later, but
yes, yeah,
yeah. And then this one was Eddie.
Okay, so all 3 interactions, that's not even the meet cute. So they did meet at some point. And what happened?
So the meet cute, this is after Eddie is being accused of murder. I think the villagers are waving pitchforks trying to come for him. So Dustin gets Steve, Robin, and Max together. They track Eddie down. So they're in a boathouse looking for Eddie. Steve is justifiably worried about monsters popping out. So he's kind of poking around with an oar. I would say, putting himself in danger again, as he does for his kids.
Does. That's part of his nature.
Yeah. Love him. Anyway, and so what does pop out is Eddie. So Eddie pops out, pins him against a wall, is all up in his space, I think it's a broken bottle, is threatening his life with it. Until Dustin is able to talk him down, which I think takes a kind of a long amount of time for some reason. You think when this kid shows up, you'd be like, oh, this is probably okay. But
part of the
not.
Posse that was trying to chase him down was other high school students, weren't they?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Who was
I didn't watch it, so.
Yeah, I don't remember all of but there was a big dude who was chasing him down that was they were possessed.
The evil jock.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was right to be concerned.
Mm-hmm. So this is how they meet, pinning him against the wall with the weapon to his throat.
Yep, and as we talked about in Nandero, that is a trope for a reason.
Yeah,
it's the vulnerability, right? It's that one person is completely at the other person's mercy.
Yeah,
and I think that this exchange here, it fuels a lot of the dynamics in the fan fictions, which we'll talk about, because I didn't understand it. I was like, I thought this would be backward, but maybe it's because of this piece here.
Maybe.
Which we'll get to.
It is, I don't know. It's not a get the boot. I don't know if it's meet cute. I don't know if it's cute.
Yeah, it's not cute.
But
we
it
need
is
one for
good.
like a Sicily one.
Yeah. Like a steamy one.
Yeah, meet cute, get the boot. I'm not going to say it. It involves part of the words that I had for the bad version from earlier.
All right, we'll think of another one.
Yeah.
All right, but yeah, meet cute for sure. So yeah, it starts off on a good note. Then there's just not like a whole lot else.
There wasn't
not a
enough
lot going on.
time. We want more time.
No. Well, that's part of it. So I did see, some people like they just wanted more Eddie. So after the season ended, they went to fanfic to get that.
And he gave us just enough room where we could project ourselves onto him in whatever way we wanted.
Yeah, get really loose with the character.
Right.
But
And that's, while the flame burned bright on screen for the little bit of time it had, it was really stoked by the fans. This is a ship that lives in our hearts more than it ever lived on screen, unfortunately. And that's just when it comes down to it. Why did we ship these two people together? Because I'll admit, I watched it. I literally got no vibes from them, I guess. It never even crossed my mind.
Mm-hmm. So I could see it, but only because I was specifically watching those clips, like looking for
when
it.
it's a fan edit. I'm like, oh God, yeah, they're hot for each other.
Yeah.
I see the gay panic or the bi panic on Eddie or Steve's face when Eddie like wiggles his little tush up against him. Like I'm like, I could see it for sure.
Yeah.
Did any of that register when I watched it? No. No.
You're not eagle-eyed enough.
I know.
Well, because I think people come in, they just really want to ship Steve with somebody. I think it's a lot of it is just because everyone really, really likes Steve. So yeah, they're trying to pair him with somebody, and Eddie was new, and people liked him, so it was Eddie.
Boom. Yeah, I call it the Steve shipping spiral. It's just anybody who's in his orbit will get stuck in there because, well, except for Robin, because we all respect her sexuality. We don't think she's confused. We believe her. Well, we don't think she's confused. We respect her, her, who she is.
Sexuality, yeah.
Because she came up in every fic I looked at. Robin was included, but it was always a Steve Harrington and Robin. It was never a slash. So,
no.
Gotta love that for society. Good for us. But yeah, anybody else who gets in the orbit gets shipped. I mean, Steddie, people were talking about Steddie. The first fix about it popped up before the season even aired, right? Mm-hmm. Which I don't know how that happens, maybe from the previews or whatever.
But I just saw this guy.
Well, and when half the cast is children, there's only so much you can do.
Right. And well, the other two are like kind of in a couple, right? Nancy and Jonathan.
Oh, yeah, those two.
Boros Nora.
Jonathan is
I don't
just
care
like,
for Jonathan.
I like, he's just wet cardboard. I don't know. It's good for you for simpering. Is that a word? I just feel like he's always like, that's my impression. Him taking pictures of her in the woods. That was fucking weird.
Right, from season 1. He's a creep. And that was, that's part of
I don't think
Steve's,
anybody
like,
would just put that to the side.
Kind of a bully. Yeah.
And date him.
Yeah.
That is some
I don't know
projection
what
from
his
the
deal
writers.
Yeah. Because I like Nancy's pretty, like, her and the guns, I remember being, like, nice. Like, she can shoot, right? That's her thing. And then she's, like, kind of the, like, kid detective thing going. So she's got her own stuff going. Yeah. I don't know if I see her with Steve so much anymore. I think they're kind of pushing it. They're trying to do, like, a love triangle thing.
Well, because everybody else loves Steve. So they're like, let's get him back in the equation.
Yeah.
No, I think they just both are beyond that.
Yes, I think so. I like it anyway.
But as we talked about, people really like Steve. They just want to see him have his happy, especially because he got jilted, right? He was with Nancy and she chose the other guy. People want to see him have his happy ending. And then people also really like Eddie, I guess even before, right? He turned his hard childhood into like the enjoyable to be around, likable kind of a way of dealing with it instead of actually being maladaptive and troubled like most of us would actually be. But because we like that, he's the everyman, right? We can project, and again, because he was so short-lived, we can project kind of whatever we want onto him. So I feel like a lot of these Steddie fanfics are actually like self-insert Steve fanfics, right?
Yeah. I get that, yeah. Right, because he's not around enough to really have a character. So.
Right. We just know
Or
that he
he
likes
kinda
metal
did,
and he died heroically, and he's from the wrong side of the tracks, but he's got a heart of gold.
Yep. Yeah, and he's friends with the kids. But yeah, people wanted them together. I kind of like it. I like that's like a full circle for Steve's journey, because he kind of starts off like popular kid concerned with his like reputation, and then to end up with someone who's like that's the opposite of his whole deal, not concerned for his reputation.
Right.
So it's kind of a full journey.
And I kind of like centered it from the Eddie perspective, where when I watched it originally, I was like, oh, I want him to get together with Chrissy because it's the same. It's the same kind of vibe.
Growth
like,
for her.
Well, for Eddie
Or,
too, where it's like, you know, they're from the different worlds, but they find each other. I was very bummed when she died, as I talked about. But apparently my imagination's pretty heteronormative, so I couldn't pick up the pieces and put together what was right in front of me. But even still, depending on what happens, he might have his shot with Chrissy, because I believe my harebrained theory is at the end of season 4, they go into the Upside Down and all the dates on everything is from the first year that the Demogorgon appeared, right? So the Upside Down seems to be stuck in a year like before it all happened, right? Like the first year it happened. I think something's going to happen in the show where they go back to that year. There's like some kind of time jump thing. And I think everybody's going to make it. I think all the dead people are going to come back to life, because what about Barb? We need Barb. Justice for Barb. That's what I say. That was, oh my God, as like the former
Never
fat
forget.
prudish friend, like, come on, guys. I was morally offended when she died. I was just like, they're just punishing her because she wouldn't want her friend to have sex. Anyways, I feel strongly about
And
that.
like nobody really cared.
And nobody cared. What about Barb? Hashtag never forget.
Never forget poor Barb.
But yes, I definitely get the vibes between Steve and Eddie for that. Like different worlds. You take one step forward, I take 2 steps back. We get it. Opposites attract. And they're pretty flirty, right? I feel like Eddie was like more flirty with him than any of the gals.
Right, yeah, because he was constantly getting in his space.
There was a lot of physical contact that wasn't even like played up. Like I saw one edit where it's like a group scene and there's a hand all of a sudden appears when something big happens. A hand appears on Steve's shoulder and it's Eddie's like grabbing him and Steve's kind of like, oh. And I'm like, are they doing this on purpose? Are the actors doing this? Like it was, again, maybe because I saw the edits to it that's like, to the romantic music that I'm like, yeah, I buy this. I'm easily swayed.
Yeah. Well, people were saying they thought that Eddie was pretty like being portrayed as like queer,
like closeted, right? Because that's just another way that makes him different than other people,
different from society.
Yeah, I can see
so
it.
maybe he was like I was watching the show or the clips. I was like, yeah, like he's flirted with it. Like, what is
undeniable? It's just not two straight males interacting.
Yeah.
Which is like, maybe that was part of his edge where he's like trying to make him uncomfortable, right? But also,
but like why
he's, like,
though?
they're both kind of into it.
Yeah. Because it was like they're always in high stress situations, so why do that? Then?
Yeah,
like,
well,
that's
this
not the time.
wasn't just like lunch, right?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's where it's coming from, and then I think also they could get together and have joint custody of Dustin, his two
dads, my two dads. Yeah,
so that would just be very convenient,
right? Or would that be weird for Dustin because then he's like, do I have to compete for affection between my two role models? Right? It's like, oh, you like Eddie more than you like me, Steve. You know, would that be kind of hard? I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a critic. Which there are some critics of the ship out there.
Yes.
I mean, of every ship.
So, what are the critics? Well, we've already said it. Yeah, they really very little screen time together. You get the standard, like, I just don't see it. Everyone wants to ship. It's like, why can't they be friends? They're not even really friends.
So yeah, they're not. They're just like acquaintances. They knew each other for 3 days.
Yeah. But that's every ship. So, but what else? Fans want Steve to get back together with Nancy because Jonathan's so lame. But yeah, that's mainly it. And also, there's like a weird fandom war kind of between this one and a different ship, a different
It's
Steve
our
ship.
first shipping war. I can't believe it took this long till we got one. I was like, whoa, I didn't know there was such a thing. But there is, apparently. And yeah, some people think that the Steddie ship is so popular just because it's like a backlash from another Steve ship, which I forgot the name of. But it's pairing Steve with a character who we've barely talked about at this point, named Billy, who was like a villain. Or was he?
Yeah.
He was like possessed or something. I don't remember.
He was a bad guy, right? Though he was the stereotypical bad jock. But you find out because of his terrible home life. So it's almost like it gives it a sympathetic edge where, like, was it abusers, like the cycle of abuse, because his dad or whatever it was, is abusive. So then, like, he kind of becomes a shit because of that. So you, like, kind of makes him sympathetic, unless there was a racist. I don't know if he was. I don't remember if there was.
There was a racial
aspect.
dynamic, but yeah, because the redheaded girl was
makes it a little less.
Yeah, it's like, I know it's the
sympathetic.
80s, but like, come on.
Ugh. Yeah.
Like, that's just a kid. That's like an 11-year-old kid.
Yeah. But I mean, it's like you said, the Steve spiral. There was another character thrown in the mix, so people wanted to just put him with Steve.
Yeah, and it was a pretty big thing.
Another attractive man.
Yeah, and they wanted, like, because he was bad. Or somewhat redeemable, I guess. They wanted Steve to save him and fix him, I guess.
Yeah.
Which I don't even remember Steve interacting with him at all. So,
He beats the shit out of him. He shows up looking for Max, and then because Steve is so great, he steps up and is like, no, go away. He comes at him, and then Billy beats the shit out of him. But I think he does keep him from Max or Luke, one of them. He's trying to get to one of the kids. But I think he does in the end die protecting Elle or something.
he changes his ways. He takes over.
Yeah.
Max gets him to, conquer the inner demon or whatever. But anyways, this one I don't like at all. I will just say that. I do not like these two because, again, they don't really interact. There's not even that little bit of camaraderie. And that's I never felt that bad for Billy, but that's just me. Maybe I'm an asshole.
Yeah.
But apparently everybody wanted it so bad that the backlash was this Steddie phenomenon. And the people who liked Steddie were upset that Billy and Stevie were whatever his name is, that they had more fics on the AO3. So then they started a fake, a campaign just to get more Steddie stuff out there. So there were people posting stuff just to get the numbers up that weren't, they were empty. They were just or concepts or copied and pasted other Steddie stories. And it got so bad that the account AO3 comment of the day, which was it stopped, but it was a blog on Tumblr that just kind of was the go-to source for AO3 news. It got so bad that Tumblr account, blog, whatever you call it, made a post specifically discouraging folks from making stories with empty text. And then everybody speculated that this was in response to people trying to goose or gas the Steddie numbers just so it could overtake the Billy one. Which is insane.
Yeah. You ever across that too? And that is the most, if you just look at the Stranger Things fandom, most comments, most kudos in AO3. It's you don't even see other ships in there.
Right.
Billy's not up there. Not even, what are the other big ones? Is Will and Mike.
Yeah, it's Baylor or something.
Yeah.
Which I get because they're children. So it's it's easier just to take Steve and another consenting adult and put them into these situations.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. We talked about maybe doing the Will and Mike one, but I didn't. I liked this one a bit more. Yeah. Because they're kids, so it feels kind of weird.
I mean, people would progress it, no doubt. They'd be in the future or whatever.
Yeah, it seems a bit sad too, because like it's definitely unrequited. So,
Right.
yeah, I just kind of feel bad
like
for him.
what gay
Yeah.
kid doesn't go through that phase, right? You
Right.
know,
Which is then that's where like people almost it's beneficial for people who like who see their experience there and then they want to explore that. So I don't know. Then that's almost like too serious for this.
right. That's more that we're not necessarily equipped for that.
Yeah.
Which is fair. But that being said, not every fanfic is an empty fic
No.
of this, because there's still a lot out there. And then it got to the point where it's like it's became so popular that within the fan community, a term that I saw thrown out there was steady brain rot, just because so many people, they just thought that it was just like, oh, everybody just wants them, and they don't, it just, brain rot, right? Everything was steady, 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 steady. And I thought that was kind of funny because nobody else has gotten to quite that level. According to fanlore.org, some of the, they did the analysis, not me. Common themes in the fics about Steddie. One is a new term to me called Xenakink. Have you heard of that?
No.
So
I did see there has been some extrapolation from certain aspects of the show to some more.
I don't know what you mean by that.
Rachel doesn't seem like she understands. I saw some BDSM stuff.
Oh yeah, BDSM for sure. I mean, that could just be people who look at each other on the street and that's what everybody's brain goes to. No, so this is way better. So this is Eddie has traded his soul or something. He's made a deal with some kind of like life force to be able to come back from the dead, but in the sense that he's not wholly human. He's like some kind of monster, like think Frankenstein. So this is, I'm guessing, some kind of like having sex with dead reanimated bodies monster kind of overlap. I didn't look into it a whole bunch because some things I don't need to burden my brain with, but
I guess he didn't die. They're just making it work.
yeah, they're trying to make it work. And if you can hit some other kind of like special interest in the process, why the hell not? Right. So this is something I'll like maybe look into for my other Taboo podcast. But for this episode, I was like, no, I got the gist that it's about dead, reanimated people who monster overlap.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, a lot of the fanfics explore the idea of PTSD, right? Those are probably a little bit more serious, right? A little less BDSM, monster porn.
Yeah. Well, they go through a lot, and I think people also have they're into the hurt comfort like stuff. So,
yeah. How do you overcome these big things?
and
of course,
someone's there for you while you do.
right. It's that kind of fantasy of somebody caring about you. Oh, that's sad. Also, Eddie lives is a big theme, right?
Yes.
Because a ghost relationship can only go so far.
Right. A fix it fic is what they're called.
Oh yeah, I like that. And then I am just so intrigued because it's so wild to me. But Omegaverse comes up apparently a fair amount.
Of course, that's gonna be everywhere.
Well, and I read a couple chapters of an Omegaverse fic, and this is where things get weird to me, is because in all of the ones, or like the common theme, and I saw this written out too, was that Eddie is usually the Omega, is usually the Alpha, which I think is reverse of what I would have imagined. I would have thought Steve was the Alpha just based on the fact that he's a fucking hero, right? And he's like, he was this popular dude, and then little kind of like the weirdo guy is the one who's like taken under his tutelage. And this is why I think it's like a self-insert, is because like people relate more to the weirdo.
Steve.
Yeah, well, that too, right? But it's just like, oh, he's like this like little pretty boy plaything, as opposed to like, I don't know. It was odd to me. I felt like it was role reversal, and it might be just based on that opening scene where Eddie jumps out with the thing, because that's like really the only time he has power over Steve, right?
Yeah. Because, Steve's the fight more. That was kind of like in the recap I watched, right? He's more the brawn to everyone else's brains.
Right. And
he's not solving the puzzles, but
which, I mean,
he's
I guess
kicking ass with the bat.
Maybe if you were doing, is it like a crossover from the Billy? Because maybe Billy's more, but like the one I read, Eddie was like a crime lord or whatever, head of a mafia, and Steve was sold to him to pay his parents' debt. I was just like, I just feel like this is Uno reverse of what it should be.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's part of it is the what is it? Subverting expectations.
But this is the theme. I read this, that usually in the Omegaverse fix, it's Eddie who is the alpha.
Yeah. Well, right. Yeah. And that's what people are into, baby. That the what? Because, yeah, Steve's more fighty. But
I don't know. To me, it felt like something. I didn't agree with it. I don't know. Maybe somebody else tell me why it should be that way. But I did read that Omegaverse just because I cannot understand it. I'm seeking to understand. So I'm reading them. And they're just, I hate that. The inner feminist in me just can't get behind it. I'm sorry. The fact that the subservient one is the one with the vagina, I'm just like, no, I can't. Another theme that they saw in these fanfics was time loops. And so I read a time loop piece, and it was really good. It was called The One in Which a Time Loop is Fucking Exhausting by Bad Pancake. And it was Steve reliving the battle with Vecna over and over and over again, and he was trying to save Eddie. So I'm guessing at the end he does, but it was actually really interesting because every time he lived the loop, it was more about like his accepting his sexuality, right? Because it goes from being like, he talks about thinking about what's been in common with all the women that he's had feelings for in the past, is that they all are strong and independent, could kick his ass. And you know, like the themes about that, and just like coming to terms with being attracted to men, and like that his love for Nancy was no different than his love for Robin. And I was like, this is really good. Like, I don't even know if the author intended it to be like his way of working through these complex feelings, but it did. And I hope in the end he saved him. It was also kind of like the fact that he was resetting the loop by killing himself. I was like, that's kind of dark, but I don't know. I wanted to keep reading, but unfortunately I have limited time.
Yeah. Well, that was some of the potential appeal of this ship, was just that like a couple really good writers just got their hands on it, and then people are almost more fans of the fic than like the actual like media. Like that is what made them like this relationship, is like some really good fan fiction. And then you're like, yeah, well, I like this.
Which is awesome. I love that. I love, like, there is still good on the internet, guys. It's not all Omegaverse, but it's giving platforms to people who would never have gotten a shot otherwise, right? So, like, these authors probably never would have had a chance to have their work published if it wasn't for online, and then they're creating something that a lot of people are enjoying. I like that.
I'm looking up this author on AO3.
Bad Pancake or somebody else?
Bad Pancake.
It sounds familiar. I feel like we might.
Yeah, that's... We referenced them before, yeah. I did see... Because when I was looking through, I did see that one. I like to look at just the top ones, and that one had a lot of comments or kudos or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it was good.
They haven't written that many, and it's all Stranger Things. 8 found. I did read one as well, or I'm working through one. What I was doing when I mixed your text message.
Oh, which one?
A Sign of the Morning by To Eden and Back Again. This was just nice. It's like low stakes.
Yeah.
They're just meeting. They're just like, getting to know each other.
When the world has enough high stakes in it, right? It's just sometimes nice to be like, oh.
Yeah, it's like I don't need to read about them, fighting the monsters and stuff in my fan fiction. I just want more of what the show doesn't have, which is the relationship.
Right. I like that. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But the time loop is kind of cool. And it's like, I don't know. I just thought it was creative. People are so creative.
They're so creative.
Everybody's so creative. That's another TikTok.
Do this for free. Crazy.
We've talked a lot about Steddie. It's the part of the show where we give our overall feedback, our one true pairing score on the couple. So I always feel like I make Emily go first because I'm stalling. I can't have original ideas.
So what is one? I'm going to give this one. I want to give it like 9 out of 10, 20-sided die. I'm into it.
Aww.
I like this one. I'm reading the fan fiction about it.
Yeah, Emily's
it's
missing
only-
my text message, my textual communications because she's too involved in the fanfic. That's a good sign.
Yeah, when I watched it, I was like, okay, I see where people are coming from. Like I said, I really enjoy Steve. I think that is part of it. I just like Steve a lot.
The inherent
I want
charm
him
of
to
the
be happy.
characters.
Yeah. The characters are good. I can kind of see where people are coming from with the show. It's 9 out of 10 because there was so little of it in the actual show.
Right.
But, maybe that's for the best. Maybe that just
Yeah,
gives you that little springboard to jump off into
Yeah,
the
lets us
fanfic
read between the lines, right? That's where the beauty
Yep,
happens.
Yeah. It's happier when they're together. Happy ending.
It is, yeah. Eddie dying, please.
Yeah.
That's why I just can't believe that. I have to believe they're going to go back in time and fix it. Because Sean Austin dying, that was cool. That was cool. Not my Samwise. Not today.
Oh, so sad.
And he sacrificed himself to save them. This is me stalling because I didn't think this through yet. Okay, I agree. I feel like on the spectrum of ships, this one is like very wholesome. And like you talked about a couple episodes ago, like what is the criteria, right?
Right.
Do they have chemistry? Are they good together? Do we think it would work?
Do I see it? So do I see it in the media? Do I want to see it? So do I want to see it outside of the media? And then is it hot? So do I find it appealing?
Right. Which is funny because you rated Nandermo low, but that was like all of those things. You're just like, they're just not good for each other. I guess that's a low. Do I want to see it?
Yeah.
So do I see it in the media?
Not before the score. I didn't like my Glinda Elphaba score. Coming back to it, I feel like I rated them too high, so I had to write it down and like.
Okay, that's perfect. I feel like if we ever do a year-end recap, we can like revisit our scores. Like, who's the top couple? We should start logging this. Who's the top couple of the ships of the year and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, which is hard because I always like to change the goalpost, like I'm going to tonight. So I'm going to give them, I would say, 22 out of 26 light up Christmas light letters. Because I do think, right? Can I see it? Yeah, I can see it. I didn't, but then when you point it out, I'm like, There's like some bi panic going on. Do I want to see more? Absolutely. Anything with just more of either of them, like, and they put them together. Yes, definitely. And then. Is it hot? As much as they're teenagers. I can't, as an adult, I don't know how hot I could say teenage romances, but yeah, they're not, I'm not opposed to the idea.
Yeah. That's like...
So that's what I give them 20. That's why I give them the 22 out of 26. I did take points off because we didn't get to see enough. They didn't get enough time together to like see if the sparks turned anywhere or if Steve could get himself there. I feel like somebody who's so ingrained with what society expects of you would have trouble. But like you said, that could help. That could be growth.
And that's what the fan fiction's for.
Right. So yeah, honestly, this is one of our more favorable ones. There's not a lot of critique of it other than... actually, don't touch it, show writers. Leave it alone. Let it live where it lives best, which is among us, the fans.
The shippers.
Right.
On AO3.
We all got steady brain rot.
Yeah. Yeah, now I do.
Do you
try
have...
that time loop one next.
Yeah. So do you have steady brain rot, listeners? Let us know. You can text us at the link in the show notes. And as always, please leave us a rating or review wherever you get your podcast. We're just doing this out here. I don't know. That's just, if you liked it, if you're still here, you probably liked it, I guess.
And we'll be back in 2 weeks with another couple because after all, ship happens!